Real quick, just a reminder to check out my movie channel. The link is in the description. I have videos on there about the new Alex Garland movie, Civil War. I have a Dune 2 review. I have, some tier list of guys like Christopher Nolan and David Fincher, and Alex Garland tier list is coming up. So be on the lookout for all that. Again, link is in the description, but back to your regularly scheduled video. All right, time for another power rankings tier list, why don't we? I figured, well, we have this little bubble, kind of free agency isn't necessarily over. There probably will be some moves made, even in between recording this video and posting it, but, probably not. I'm assuming not too many massive moves left, not too many huge dominoes to fall, and, with the draft coming up, figured now could be a good time to test how we feel about where each of these teams are. This is going to be the tier rankings of each team. Starting off, let's just get into it with the Tennessee Titans. You see the five tiers I have. I've changed it. In the past, I had added a meh team in there, and then I had could maybe playoffs. I've kind of combined them both and put them in bubble playoff team. So that's what we're doing there. But yeah, for the Titans, I don't know. They're interesting. So I actually like what they did this offseason of kind of trying to improve on the outside. I am kind of a big believer in games are often won on the outside. This defense could be actually, if things work out, it could be kind of sneaky good. I think the question though is just the Will Levis factor and how good could he be. There is also, I still think the offensive line has some pretty big issues. So sorry, Titans fans. I think you have potential. I think my expectation is that they'll be scrappy but bad. But again, with this stuff, I'm really just giving what I think could be the most likely outcome right now. What I think will end up happening. Obviously, there's still plenty to change, and who knows? With a good draft, I could bump them up to bubble playoff team. For now, though, I think I'm sticking here just because, again, Will Levis, I thought he showed some flashes, but there's a lot of rookie quarterbacks who have come along and showed flashes. There's a lot less who then translated into being a consistently good quarterback. Granted, he's checked every box so far, but I got to see it more consistently now in year two. The Dolphins, I think I'm going to put them in should-be playoffs. I still definitely think they're a playoff team. And I kind of like their offseason a little bit. I know they lost some pieces. They did add, Kendall Fuller on a pretty sweetheart deal. So I think that could really help them kind of get that second corner spot filled up now that they've lost Howard after that kind of he never was able to find his game again, really. So I don't know. I think they're, you have to factor in the fact that they do kind of have a history now of falling off as the season goes along. Maybe it's just, hey, they've gotten injured, and that's definitely happened. But at the same time, it almost reminds me of the Rams a little bit, and which is ironic because Jalen Ramsey's there now, it feels like they're so dependent on their stars that if they lose a star or two, they're screwed. But if they could just have a season where all their stars stay healthy like the Rams did, they could win it all. And maybe they should make a Von Miller type trade. As long as they don't sign a Von Miller type contract like the Bills did, they should be okay. The Jets. Man, the Jets are super interesting. I don't know if I can quite put them in Super Bowl contenders yet. Super Bowl contenders to me feels like I'm going to save it. Maybe I'll bump them up at the end of the video. I think my concern still is they had issues. They fixed all of those issues in theory. They put a player in place to fix those issues, but Mike Williams could get hurt. Tyron Smith could get hurt. Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what he's going to be. He's in his 40s coming off of Achilles injury. That's scary. Again, if everything works out, they could be Super Bowl champions. Their ceiling is winning the Super Bowl, but I don't know if that's my expectation going in right now, just simply because I think that there's, guys who could get hurt. Again, we'll see how they draft. They do have a good pick, but Cincinnati, I still think that they've lost pieces defensively. I think their defense could take a hit, and T. Higgins has reportedly requested a trade. It might just be a negotiation tactic, but still, it's a little concerning. I still think that they're good enough, and, last year before Burrow got hurt, I know their record wasn't great, but they were playing really good football and looking like they were going to be Super Bowl contenders. I'm still going to put them there. Again, they do get they've beaten Mahomes in the playoffs factor, so they kind of get a little bit of an extra boost there for that. But just in general, I think that there's, a lot of really good stuff to like about the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, I'm going to have them there. The Cleveland Browns are interesting. I want to talk through them for a second because me, I think quarterbacks matter a ton. Would I love to go back 20 years where running backs mattered and the running game mattered and that stuff mattered more? Yeah, I kind of would. But it's not 20 years ago, and we're not going back there. Quarterbacks matter a lot, and the Browns legitimately could end up starting Jameis Winston this season, depending on how things go. I don't know. They're interesting. They're a very interesting team. Obviously, they made the playoffs with so much injuries last year. You assume there will be less injuries this year, so it should work out better. But again, sure, all these quarterbacks kept getting hurt, but they weren't that great. So I don't know if it's actually going to be that much of a upgrade. The Deshaun Watson thing is still this question mark that's going to be hanging over us of what are we going to get out of Deshaun Watson? Are we going to get anything out of Deshaun Watson? I just don't know. Their defense is still so good. I think I'm going to put them in should be playoffs just because they made it last year. I think that should be the expectation going in. They should at least make the playoffs, and there is the ceiling for better if they can get better quarterback play. But so far, I don't know. I just don't know what to expect. But again, getting Nick Chubb back should help. All that stuff should help. The Jacksonville Jaguars. What a weird run this team has had, right? Obviously, they had that kind of great end to the season 2 years ago, followed by a great start to the season last year, and then completely fell off. I think Lawrence is good and was playing injured. I do. That's how I feel about. So I'm not as concerned about all of that. I think he'll still be good this upcoming season. But you're losing Calvin Ridley, who say what you want about the contract and all that. He's a valuable piece. Their defense should still be good. I like their secondary, but that can be fluky year in and year out. So tough offensive line. I don't love this receiving core as of right now, and I think the strength of this team is a quarterback who's coming off of 18 injuries and a defense, but defenses can be fluky. So I'm going to put them in bubble playoff team. I think there's definitely a chance they can make the playoffs, but I'm not fully in quite yet. But it could happen. The Detroit Lions, I think I have to, I was kind of a Lions hater, quote unquote, last year. Again, who hates the Lions? But I was just a little bit more low on them than I think other people were due to the fact that I had some concerns about their defense and some concerns about Jared Goff. Well, the defense still had its issues, but those issues didn't end up being as big of a deal as I thought they would be. And Goff had probably his best season as a pro. So they've now addressed the secondary. They've added Carlton Davis, and they've added a couple other depth pieces that, it's a position about depth, so getting depth is really important. How do you not put them in Super Bowl contenders right now? Again, I loved their free agency last year and then didn't love their draft, and then the draft ended up being actually really good. So who knows what to expect with the Lions, but yeah, I think I kind of got to put them here for now. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Vikings, they have Justin Jefferson, and they have still a scrappy defense, so maybe this is unfair, but I'm putting them in just bad for now. Now, I don't know if they're going to go after a quarterback. A lot of people are speculating. They got the extra first-round pick. Is that to trade up and get a quarterback? Maybe. But as of right now, if it's Sam Darnold for 17 games, I think this is going to be a bad football team and probably a little bit by design. Now, again, get a young quarterback, develop him. That would probably, if they draft a quarterback, I'll bump them up to scrappy but bad. But for now, that's kind of where I have them. The Buccaneers are interesting. So I think some Buccaneers fans are maybe higher on the team than me. I still like this team, and I do think you could say that maybe with a year, kind of working with the same teammates for Baker, could he kind of cut down on some of the mistakes? Yeah, probably. That'll probably help. It is a new system, though. They did lose their offensive coordinator, and I do think that there are still some issues. Quite frankly, the secondary looks really bad right now. Outside of, Antoine Winfield is amazing, and Jamel Dean is amazing, but it's a position about depth, and if Zion McCollum is corner number 2, I was complaining about him being corner number 3 last year. This could be a tough situation. So, I think there's some defensive holes, and I still think the interior offensive line isn't great. So, bubble playoff team feels fair for me right now. 49ers, kind of goes without saying, Super Bowl contenders, and given the NFC, which I think is weaker than the AFC, they probably have the easier route to get to the Super Bowl than a team like Kansas City, who we'll talk about eventually. But yeah, no reason to think they shouldn't be right back competing for it all. The Atlanta Falcons are interesting. Do I bump them up to should be playoffs? I think if Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins again and fully comes back from the injury, they would be in should be playoffs. I think I have to keep him in bubble playoff team right now because Achilles injuries are scary. I did a video on guys at different positions, not quarterbacks, but guys at different positions, honestly very rarely come back to play at a high level after coming off an Achilles injury. It doesn't often happen. Now, Again, Cousins isn't exactly a mobile quarterback, but you still use your legs when you're throwing. It's a whole body motion thing. So that I think that concerns me enough just to drop them down a tier for now. The Baltimore Ravens, I still think they're Super Bowl contenders. I really do. I still think they're a team that, if they can put it all together, they did lose pieces. They did. And they're going to have to address that through the draft. The Ravens do a very good job of drafting and finding guys to replace those pieces. They did lose some pieces, but again, I believe in this team. Now, can they get it done in the playoffs is going to be the question, but there's still so much talent here. I think you have to put them in that Super Bowl contender tier as of right now, even with the pieces they lost. The Chicago Bears, honestly, they're interesting. I mean, what are we expecting out of Caleb Williams, who I'm assuming they're going to draft? So I will take that into consideration, right, of who I think you will draft. Assuming they get Caleb Williams, I think that there's a lot of real intrigue with this team. I just think with a rookie quarterback, I can't expect you to be a playoff team. I think scrappy but bad has to be the expectation going in. Is their ceiling higher? Yeah, the ceiling's higher, but that's where I have them. The Cowboys, again, like every year, if the Cowboys, they should be in the playoffs. I complain about them every year, every offseason. Cowboys fans get mad at me, call me a hater, and then every season, the exact same thing happens. They have an impressive regular season and then suck in the playoffs. This has happened every year, and it's going to happen again. I'm sorry, but that's the issue with, Dak Prescott currently has $60 million in cap space. That's going to be an issue. It's going to kind of stunt your ceiling of your team, even if it makes it easier for you to make the playoffs. Seems like they maybe are potentially looking out of that contract. They didn't extend Prescott. Who knows what'll happen? And I like Prescott as a quarterback. It's more of a, I tend to not be a huge fan of paying the ninth best quarterback in football, big money. That doesn't always work out too well. But, we'll see. But for now, should be playoffs. Again, kind of a unrelated rant, but, again, there's still a lot to like about this team. CeeDee Lamb's awesome. Should have a good offensive line. Should have a great defense. But, yeah, that's where I have them. The Houston Texans, well, again, are they Super Bowl contenders after some of their moves? They're really good. They should be playoffs. Again, I think on paper, you can maybe make the argument there's enough talent to be Super Bowl contenders. I want to see it. I get it. Diggs should be awesome. That receiving core looks loaded now, which how much I care about a good receiving core. Stroud is obviously, coming off of a season where he got MVP votes as a rookie. He's very good. This team should definitely be in the playoffs, and their defense was great last year. Their ceiling is more than that, but sometimes you add these pieces and it doesn't quite work the way you want it to. So because of that, I still want to see it first before I'm willing to put them in a Super Bowl contenders tier. But definitely should be a very, very competitive team and has the ceiling of, again, another team with the ceiling of Super Bowl champions. Next up is the Indianapolis Colts, who kind of feel like a bubble playoff team to me. That's what they were last year. They were, just on the fringe of making the playoffs over the Houston Texans. Do wonder how we view the Texans differently if Minshew makes that throw, if they convert on the fourth down, score a touchdown, and win the game. Do we kind of view the Texans a little bit lower? I don't know. Do we view the Colts a little bit higher? Probably. Again, Anthony Richardson is going to kind of be the story here. What are we going to get out of him as a rookie? I don't know. But yeah, I think they should be a competitive team. I don't know if they'll be in the playoffs for sure, but they feel like a team that will still be fighting for, week 17, they'll still be fighting for a playoff spot, maybe even week 18. So, yeah, bubble playoff team for them. The Rams are interesting. I kind of think they should be playoffs. I'm not worried I'm going to put more than 14 teams into should be playoffs. That's possible, I suppose. But I feel like they should be playoffs, right? They have made improvements to that defense, which desperately needed improvements, and they have 100 picks in this upcoming draft, which I'm sure they're going to use. None of them trade all back and get 200 picks in the draft. This tends to be what they do. They love to get draft picks if they can, and that's what I think they're going to do is, again, work on the depth that they do need. They had a lot of young players come through and succeed last year. If we can get a full year of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, that would be amazing. I think they should be a playoff team. I do. The Chargers, I can't put a team with Justin Herbert into just bad tier, but they're scrappy but bad. They are. Herbert is the saving grace of this team. Their defense looks atrocious. They've lost their entire receiving core. Offensive line solid. I like their offensive line. Herbert's very good, but yeah, this is not a great look right now. Who knows? Maybe it'll have a great draft. But for now, I think they're in a rebuild. It is what it is. The Raiders, who are kind of refusing to do this rebuild, they instead kind of are making a clear effort to try and win right now. However, just because they're trying to win doesn't mean I think that they could be in a great situation. Like, I like Gardner Minshew, but again, it does all start with the quarterbacks. And if it's Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, I don't know. Are they going to draft a guy? They're kind of in no man's land. I don't know if they're going to draft a guy or not. I like the defense weirdly. I didn't think on paper it looked great heading into last year, but it weirdly played really well. So I think that could work. But again, can be fluky year in and year out. I don't know. I think Raiders fans really are going to want me to put them in bubble playoff team. Depends on how they draft. If they draft well, I'll put them there. For now, though, I think I'm stuck in the scrappy but bad tier for them. I just am. I know that they were kind of a bubble playoff team last year, so maybe this is being too hard on them, but that's just how I view it. I can't put every team in the bubble playoffs or should be playoffs or Super Bowl contenders. Some have to be lower. So Washington should be just bad. Listen, getting a young quarterback should help out. Getting Drake May, who I think they'll get. Who knows? Like I said, the Texans absolutely were in the just bad tier entering last year. If you get greatness out of a young quarterback, that changes everything. And they do have pieces with their receiving core, but that defense was just so bad last year. And kind of some of the pieces they did have, they lost in the secondary. So they still haven't really addressed they have added pieces in defense, haven't really addressed the edge rusher concern as of right now. I think that they're in a rebuild. Again, it is what it is. The Chiefs, I mean, yeah, they're Super Bowl. Of course, they're always going to be Super Bowl contenders when Mahomes is there. That's obvious. The Saints feel like another bubble playoff team for me. I think that if you look at how they ended the season last year, you'd be looking at them and saying that was actually like a really good end to the season. Like maybe they're underrated. You could make that argument for sure because they did have a good end to the season. But again, is it fair to kind of throw out the first 2/3 of the season? I just don't know. Carr did look really good towards down the stretch. I think Carr will be good. I think they'll be competitive, and I don't think it's crazy to think they could make the playoffs. But as of right now, I think there's enough questions. I'm going to put them in bubble playoff team. The Giants, I did my thing about how I didn't love the Brian Burns trade. I thought they, paid him, and really the contract was the issue. The player is good player. I think it's a bit of a high contract. That being said, they did get better adding Brian Burns. This defensive line should be really good, but if you can't cover, the defensive line doesn't have time to get over and make a sack because the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands in a second and a half, right? So that's the issue. And, I think Daniel Jones being healthy should make a difference. Like, it's weird how people were like, oh, Daniel Jones is good, actually. He, plays a few games, gets injured, and everyone's like, well, actually, he sucks now. It's like, no, the contract was always a bad idea, but, he's still a quality player, and who knows, maybe they'll draft a guy. That's also possible. But as of right now, I think that they're still going to be in the scrappy but bad tier. They've done enough, surprisingly. They've won enough games in surprising fashion. You kind of can't just put them in the just bad tier. But I don't know exactly how optimistic I am with them. The Philadelphia Eagles are next on this list. I don't know what to do with them, to be honest. Again, they at one point felt like obvious Super Bowl contenders last year. They had the best record in football coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, and then they started just losing games left and right. And while the offense took most of the blame, it's worth mentioning that defense was really bad last year. I mean, it was debatably the worst defense in football last year, and it was bad all year. Just the offense was good enough early on that people didn't really notice that the defense was playing that bad, and then second half of the year, the offense took a step back and was still good, but the defense was just so bad it didn't matter. They've made some adjustments to the defense. They fixed a little bit, but it seems like their main idea is let's just hope our old corners get better, which doesn't always happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on them. I'm putting them in bubble playoff team right now. I just, with how bad they played last year, that's how I view them. The Steelers are a perpetually bubble playoff team. They're always going to be there. There's never going to be a year where the Steelers aren't bubble playoff team, it feels like. With Russell Wilson and Fields, maybe that could be better. Maybe you could argue should be playoffs just because they're the Steelers and they're always in the playoffs. But I still think that there's enough issues with this roster. And again, Russell Wilson, I like as a player. Justin Fields, I like as a player. Neither of which I'm like, oh, those guys are great. So bubble playoff team for me. Broncos, they're bad. This could be definitely a team competing for a top pick next year. I think on paper at least. There's good qualities. Every team has good qualities. They do have a defense. They have gotten rid of some of their offensive pieces, which wasn't a great offense to begin with. So whichever quarterback they have, which I don't know if they're going to draft a guy or what, not a great situation to go into. I just don't think this is going to be a great team. But again, could be wrong. The Packers are interesting. I think Packers fans might say we should be Super Bowl contenders. We were, so close to beating the 49ers, who were so close to beating the Chiefs, and we beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Listen, a lot of teams beat the Chiefs in the regular season. There's a difference between beating the Chiefs in the regular season and the playoffs, but still, definitely another team that finished the season incredibly strong. I don't think it's fair to completely throw out the bad games as well. Again, so for someone like Jordan Love, who finished the season so strong, I think a lot of people are saying, well, that's just who he is now. Maybe, but he's always been kind of a streaky player, and I do think you can't just throw out the downs and only look at the ups. I don't think that's totally fair. That being said, their ceiling is absolutely Super Bowl contender or Super Bowl champion. They are a should-be playoffs team that feels easily like what should happen. Like they should be in the playoffs for sure. The Panthers, they were the worst team in football and don't have the first overall pick. They should be competing for the first overall pick again. Who knows? Maybe Bryce Young takes a step forward in a new scheme. They have made some adjustments to help out Bryce Young, although I still feel like they should make more, but they've made some adjustments, but it shouldn't matter. They shouldn't be a great team. The Cardinals, I think that, listen, getting a top-tier receiver should help out this team a lot, should make them a lot more fun. Kyler Murray should make this team a lot more fun. There are so many holes on this roster, though. I can't put them anywhere but scrappy but bad. I just can't. That's kind of where I'm at with them right now. The Bills, maybe this is harsh. I'm putting them in bubble playoff team. I really am. I don't know, man. I mean, the way that they finished that year was great. The way they finished the regular season was very good, but this wasn't a clear-cut playoff team last year. They really weren't. Josh Allen, I thought, was amazing last year. People got mad at him because they used quarterback wins as a thing, and because he had high interception totals. Even though I did a lot of content on how the interception totals weren't actually a great indicator. Like he does a pretty fine job of protecting the football. He just has his very bad games where he doesn't. But for the most part, is good at protecting the football. But other than that, it's like, I don't know. Feels like the Bills really are kind of, I think they're in a rebuild. I think they want to compete just because, hey, we have Josh Allen. Every year you have Josh Allen. You shouldn't just fully rebuild. But, I think they are in a bit of a rebuild. They've gotten rid of a lot of talent. They got rid of Diggs, of course. They do have extra draft capital now because of that Diggs trade. But I think, I don't know if it's obvious that they're going to make the playoffs. I really just don't. The Seattle Seahawks are another team where it's like, yeah, they've kind of been, perpetually bubble playoffs for a while now, and they're back in the bubble playoff situation. I think, why wouldn't they be? They're basically the same team. Maybe the young players can take a step forward, and they could be like a clear-cut playoff team, but for now, should be playoffs, feels fair. And finally, the New England Patriots are going to be just bad. Sorry, Kyle, if you're watching this video. I'm still not too optimistic about the Patriots. Again, their defense was very good last year, but how much of that was Belichick? I don't know. And this offense looks tough. Again, they have a lot of draft capital. They have good draft capital. They can try to fix it. But, if you're adding a rookie quarterback to this, offense, it doesn't look great. Really doesn't. So, I don't know. I think they'll be bad. So, who knows? Could be wrong. Without a doubt, things will reshuffle once the draft happens, so plenty of offseason left. Maybe some of these teams that I have concerns about, they are going to fix those concerns in the draft, and I'll feel much higher on them, much better about them. Maybe some of the teams I feel good about are going to make a dumb move, and I'll feel worse about it. Well, we'll see. But for now, these are my tier rankings. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.